Okay.
Going live. Yeah, but
How's yeah?
yeah.
Yeah.
So for New Zealand, are you guys allowed? Are you? Is it allowed to have in-person meetups now,
Yeah,
or?
yeah, yeah, we can. We actually did a one in. I actually did one in Jan, I think. Yeah,
Oh,
we
Oh,
nice.
can. We actually right now what we do is like we do kind of a hybrid thing because certain people come to work and most people prefer to work from home.
mm-hmm,
So last time when we did was like 30 odd people were joining online and we had like 15 people in person.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's kind of right now is everything is hybrid, but we
Yeah.
can do it. Yeah,
Oh, that's nice. At least you have an
yeah, obviously.
audience you can interact with.
It's always nice to have like do it in a proper audience, having
Yeah.
questions and interactive sessions. Yeah.
Yeah. I think in Singapore will not be possible until next year.
Oh,
Yeah, so I think with the vaccination things will change maybe within this year because
yeah.
you guys are already ahead of vaccination compared to other countries.
Yeah, and they did a dry run for in-person event. I think a few last week
Hmm.
for I forgot the name of the conference for Go conference. They
Hmm.
tested how they're gonna do it if they're gonna start doing live in-person conferences. They have all those bracelets for temperature and for location. So
Mm.
we'll see how it will evolve the conferences go moving forward. We're just waiting for people to come in. Then we'll start at 7.
Yeah, my share button is disabled still. I think
Who? Sorry?
my share, I mean like share button is disabled for
For
that.
you.
Yeah.
Let me just make you a presenter. Yeah, there
Oh,
you go.
I will not.
Wonder where people are. Didn't they just had the Power BI Summit in New Zealand?
We're having it in April.
Ah, in April. Oh,
Yeah.
I thought I saw Reza post something about it. I don't see.
Yeah, so it's kind of it's not a again in-person one because what we do is like we record the sessions and we stream it in the three different time zones.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly online and the Q&A session is like live. So we do the recordings and then at the end of the recording we join to the Q&A session.
How do you find recording sessions? Is it isn't it
Oh,
more?
it's difficult. Like this is different because like we talk to ourselves and
Um,
it's not interactive. Even the online sessions are a bit difficult,
mm,
especially from the in the very beginning. It was kind of odd to do online sessions, but things become new normal now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Though I find it that recorded sessions you tend to spend a lot more time doing them
Yes. Yeah. Because
compared.
like so in my case, like we do it a couple of times, and if
Mm.
something goes wrong, we tend to edit it.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
because you can edit it, you end
Yeah,
up doing a lot of things.
and we try to make it perfect. Like in live sessions, the
Exactly.
demo codes go wrong, and we do something else.
Mm.
That's different. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried recording a session I think for one of the Sequel Saturday last year,
Mhm.
and for the 1 hour session, I think it took me 3 4 hours to to make the recording because I keep on. Oh,
Yeah.
I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. It's crazy.
Yeah, even in this case, I did 2 times. I did
Mm,
two recordings. Yeah.
mm, crazy. Let me just check the meetup if there's any space. Oh, this it's still prompting people to lobby. Let me just fix that and then we can. Okay, it's I already started the streaming. So we're streaming in Facebook and in YouTube.
Hi guys. Hi Asanka. Hi Pio. Hi Asif.
Hi, Arrow.
Hello, Aro.
Hello.
Long time.
Long time, yeah. Too busy with a lot of things, man.
It's funny how everyone was so busy back in February and March.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. I mean, even I want to do a lot of webinars in Pune. They have SQL Saturdays, and so they have some Microsoft 365 thing and all. I have 3 sessions I have to do. I didn't do anything. I said no. Uh, March, April, too busy. Hi Asanka, how are you doing today?
Good, good. It's almost midnight in here.
Oh yeah, it's a midnight.
Okay.
Asanka, you got the vaccine?
No, we don't. We don't. Like right now, it's only for the essential workers. I think
Uh,
we are slightly behind compared to other countries because the only thing is like we have closed the borders, so we don't have the cases within the New Zealand, so they are not in a hurry.
Mm. Yeah,
So
and the situation in your place is it's the best in the world, so
yeah,
you don't really
so
have the need to vaccine right now.
yeah, so hopefully at the end of this year.
Should we? Maybe we should start and just wait for people to come in. Anyway, it's recorded so they can
Yep.
use it. Right. Let me just start this. Yeah, welcome everyone. Good evening. This is episode 3 of data sessions for Singapore Data Platform User Group. Uh, Tonight we have two great sessions ahead of us about Power BI and automating your data pipelines. Let me just go through some housekeeping slides before we introduce our speaker and start with our first session. So, yeah, so Singapore Data Platform User Group is the Microsoft Data Platform user group for Singapore. If you want, if you haven't connected with us, you can find us on Facebook, on the links that's on your screen right now. We're also on the Azure Office, Azure, and Data user group meetup for Singapore, and all our videos and past meetups, you can find them on YouTube. And something new, we've recently we are now part of the community tenant for Microsoft. So if you want to be added to the Teams tenant, to the Singapore Data Platform User Group channel, you can use the link on your screen right now. It's a form that will let you fill out your name and the email address that you want us to add on Teams, and then we can add you on the Teams. The advantage of the Teams channel is we will be able to communicate even after our meetups. We can ask questions about data platform, or if you just want to network with each other. That's what the channel will be, and then we now have a single place for resources that we want to share with each other. This is similar to, if you've been with us for the past few years, we used to have a Teams channel a while back, but we for the past year, I think we haven't been able to maintain it. So we're going to try and move all the contents from that Teams channel to this one. So it would be great if you fill up the form if you want to join the channel, so we can add you guys in. Before we go to our session, just a few announcements. The Asia Pacific Data Community Group now has a meetup group where we will be putting our events. You can follow the link below or scan the QR code so that you can see the group. It's part of the Azure Data Tech group in Meetup. So this is the collaboration between the user groups, different local user groups in APAC. So if you wanna be updated on our events or any announcements about the group, you can go to the meetup and join the meetup group. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we now have a Teams channel. I just wanna put the link again. Here's the link. You can scan the QR codes. It will direct you to a Microsoft form where you can fill up your name and email address that you want us to add to the group. And upcoming events, the Azure group has a meetup on April 8th. If you want to join that, it's about Windows 10 IoT Core with Raspberry Pi. If you want to join the event, go to the meetup group, to the MSSGUG meetup group, and register for the event. So a few reminders before we start. Keep yourself on mute. If you have any questions, use the raise hand icon or put it in the chat. When there's a logical break on the presentation, or when the presenter is ready to answer your question, we're gonna read them back to the speaker, or you can unmute yourself if the speaker asks you to, and then we can discuss about your question. At the end of the session, there's an evaluation form that you can use to provide feedback on the speaker and on the event. Feel free to let us know what you think about the event, what we need to improve, what did you like. It will help us improve the succeeding meetups. If you have any topics that you would like to hear about, you can also course it through the evaluation form. And last but not the least, this session is being recorded and we're live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. So yeah. So our first session for our first session for tonight is about Power BI tools for advanced Power BI developers. Oh, what's happening? Let me just Stop that and then remove the transition. Just remove the transition. Yeah, so our first topic for tonight is Power BI tools for advanced Power BI developer. Let me just quickly remove that because it's a bit annoying. All right, let me just. Oh, there's still a animation. Anyway, yeah. So Power BI. Where is it? Ah, there you go. All right. Obviously, we're not experts in PowerPoint, but but yeah. So our first session is Power BI tools for advanced Power BI developers. Our speaker for tonight is Asanka Padmakumara. He's a senior BI consultant and Azure data engineer from Curious, based in New Zealand. He's been working with business intelligence and data analysis for more than 10 years. He's a Microsoft certified solutions expert. Uh, so without taking much more time, I'm gonna hand over to Asanka. Yep. Uh, did you froze? Yeah. So yeah. So that's our first session for tonight. Asanka, are you?
Yep.
There
So
you go.
let me share my screen just to check whether can me or you see my screen, Pio?
Yes, we can see.
Yep.
Asanka.
Yeah.
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to present these sessions, and thank you very much for everyone who's joining to the session. So the session is basically a tool for an advanced Power BI developer. So I want to emphasize and I want to focus on that this session is more into the people who actually do the Power BI development, not for the business users who do the Power BI reporting development and the modeling. And this is tools for the Power BI desktop, for the Power BI desktop application we use to do the development is the other tools that we can use for the Power BI developments. So then Pio gave me the introduction to myself. So only thing I can tell is like I can give my blog URL in here and my LinkedIn profile and my Twitter. You can connect me through all those three. And let's quickly jump into the session. So the session is basically Power BI and external tools. So if you have been using Power BI, you might have seen that there's a ribbon available, something called external tools. So this ribbon is actually initially came to picture in 2020 June as a public preview, and then at that time most people start wondering, okay, pretty much everything is empty. Even in right now, if you are not using external tools, if you open the Power BI desktop and if you go to the ribbon and see external tool ribbon is pretty much empty, this session is ideal for you. So on the other hand, very recently, I think within like a couple of days ago, they actually went to general availability in this ribbon or the external tools. So which means that Power BI fully support the external tool features when it comes to the development, right? So let's talk about what is this external tools and how these external tools work. So if you are familiar with the external tools, if you know in depth, so if you are familiar with the Power BI and if you know in depth of the Power BI, you know that Power BI is actually built on top of SQL Server analysis service tabular engine. So if you are coming from a development background, if you do the data warehousing and BI technologies before Power BI comes to picture, we use SSAS multidimensional model. Then we move into the SSAS tabular model, and with the same time they implement the SSIS tabular model. They implement the Power BI. So, but for their backend implementation or for all the data modeling, they actually uses the SSAS tabular model. So, what all those tools actually does, the tool that I'm going to cover in this session is uses XML endpoints when the Power BI is deployed into service, or it uses the TOM, tabular object model class library to develop these tools. So the TOM is actually DLLs such as AMO, if you're familiar with the multidimensional. But it does is like it exposes objects available in the tabular model, like databases, tables, columns, hierarchies, and data sources, all those information, especially the columns and the roles. And you can get that information and you can manipulate those objects within your code, right? So that's how all those tools are done. Not only that, if you have if you know that, if you're coming from the development background, again, you know that DMVs, the same DMVs we are available in the SQL Server, is available for the analysis service tabular object as well, tabular model as well. In that case, like what this tool does is like tool like DAX Studio does is like it connect to these DMVs and extract the information available in these DMVs and showcase to you. So in that sense, which means that all those tools I'm going to show is actually developed by certain people or certain organizations, and then which means that with the use of these two methods, like using the TOM or using the dynamic management view, even you can develop tools. If you go to the internet and if you search for the third-party tools or the tools available for the Power BI development, you will find that heap of tools available now developed by different people for do the different things. So you can contribute the community as well. Only thing is like if you're coming from the development background, if you are like expert in C#, you can use these two methods. You can connect to the tabular engine and get the DMB information, or you can use the TOM class library and you can manipulate these objects, servers, database model, data sources, and all this other information available in your Power BI model. You can read and write these informations and you can basically create your own tools. So I have a couple of other slides at the end, but I want to spend more time on the demo. So I'm directly going to demo. The idea is like I want to showcase as much as tools possible, as well as much as features as possible. So what I'm going to do is like I have already created a model which connect to a Contour Retail DW. In that data warehouse, I have a table factor online sales which has 12.6 million records and related dimensions. What I'm going to do is like I have already created this model. What I want to do is like I want to make this model a clean, effective data model, and then at the end, if I had time, I will show you how to do the documentation, and then I'm going to deploy this model to the service. The tool I have used in this demo, the tool I'm going to use in this demo is you can find it from the SQL BI tools site. I'm going to share this slide with you, or even if you search for the Power BI external tools, you will get the SQL BI site, or if you go for the Power BI tips site, you can see there's a business ops application I will show, which if you download the business ops, it actually gives you all the available applications, external tools, consolidate into one download files. So as you can see that if you download in here, which is a free one, you can get all the tools, all the third-party tools available right now, like the good tools available right now, consolidate into one download file. So you can download everything in a one go, right? So let's quickly go to the model that I have created. So this is the model that I wanted to show. I hope I still can sharing. I'm still sharing my screen. So the factor online sales, I have created a simple star schema. I have a factor online sales and connect to the multiple dimensions, product, dim days, dim customers, dim currencies. It's a typical model we create when it comes to Power BI. Okay. So if I check the how many records available in my facts table, as I said, like in my fact table, I have 12.6 million records. And if I go to my file, which is saved in my desktop, the PC, I'll show the size of this model in here. It's actually 725 MB, the PBIX file. So if you know that, the most of us, we don't have the, we're not using the Power BI premium capacity or the any dedicated capacity. The most of the organization, they use pro licensing. So if you go to the pro licensing, you know that the maximum data volume you can have, the maximum size of the PBIX file is 1 GB, right? So in this case, like I'm getting closer to 1 GB, but it's just I only have a one fact table, right? If I add a one more fact table, I'm going to exceed in my 1 GB file limit, and then I will not be able to deploy this file to the Power BI service. So first thing what I want to do is like I want to actually optimize the my model size. Optimize as in sense like I want to see whether I can minimize my model size in the Power BI file. So if I go back to my PBIX file, this is pretty much nothing I can see from the storage information. I know that these are the tables available. I know that this table is the biggest table, but I don't know how I can actually optimize this model. I basically want to delete certain columns because I can't basically filter the rows. But even if to delete the columns, I'm not sure that which column is actually taking the most space and all those information. So the first thing what I'm going to do is like I have installed a couple of tools. AML Toolkit, DAX Studio, Power BI Help in the tabulator. I'm trying to cover all those 4 tools as much as possible. The first one I'm going to actually try is actually DAX Studio. So when I click the DAX Studio, because I have already installed DAX Studio, it will open up the DAX Studio while connecting to my model. So you see that this is my tables available in my model, whereas there are a couple of other tables available in the DAX Studio in my model. But if I check my PBIX file, I don't see these tables available. I only see these tables that I actually created from the my data warehouse. What happens in Power BI side is like whenever you created a model, and if you have a date time column, Power BI is actually creating a calculated table for each date time column. So if you check that, all these columns, for example, like dim currency has a load date column, and it actually by default it's created as a hierarchy. The reason is actually it created a table to refer to this hierarchy load date. So if you have 10 columns with the date type of date time data type, it will actually create 10 tables within your Power BI files. So that is what actually shown in here. But you can't see these files. If you can see, this is like kind of gray out because these are hidden from the Power BI desktop side. But you can actually see it actually take the space of your Power BI file. So first thing what I'm going to do is like I'm going to remove that table. So what I can do is like I can go to the files and go to the option and settings, go to the options, and there I can over there under the current file, something called data load, you have something called time intelligence and auto date time. So when you keep that one on, which means that whenever you have a date type column, it actually creates the auto date type table and it treats as a different hierarchy. If I untick this one and click OK, right, and you will see that hierarchy is no longer available in my dim currency load date. And if you go back to the DAX Studio, you will see that instantly these tables are deleted from my model, right? So there are some scenarios like if you have a long date range, it can actually take a lot of spaces. So this the best thing is actually whenever you like in the Power BI side, Power BI desktop side, I only enable it for the current file, but you can do that for all the files created in the Power BI. In that case, you don't have to go to the current file. If you go to the global level date load, you can enable this in in the global level. So which means that when you have unticked this one, whenever you create a new PBX file, this will not happen to you, right? If you click this one, it will happen. It will again create the same timetable, right? Date timetable. Okay. So we go back to the problem, but like in this case, like disabling those space, that those table will not save much space. So what I'm going to do is like I'm going to DAX Studio and go into the advanced section. Under the advanced section, we have something called view metrics, right? So what it does is like in the view metrics, it gives you information about your model, especially about how the Vertipack engine is storing your data. So it shows you that the total volume of your model is 1.36 GB. But actually, this is the space it take in the memory. But when you save a PBX file into your hard drive, it actually do additional compression. That's why you say it is 700 megabytes. But when you load it to the memory, it actually get the more space. So in the memory, it takes 1.36 GB. Then it gives you information like what's the compatible level, how many tables you have, how many columns you have, all those information, right? And then if you go to the another tab, we have called the tables. This is the most important area that you can go in-depth analysis. In here, it shows that the cardinality information of the table. Cardinality is that how many unique rows available in each table. So as I said, we have 12 million records. In the Fact Online sales, all the 12 million records are actually unique. And in customers, you have the 18,000 unique records. In stores, likewise, it shows that how many unique records are available in here. And it shows that in the data size, how many megabytes is taking. And I want to take you to the focus on this area, the percentage of the space taken from each and individual object. In this case, it says that out of all the space taken from this Power BI model, 99.61 is actually taken from my Fact Online sales. All other tables are actually very small. If I expand this one, it shows more information about each and individual columns. So remember, all this information is actually extracted from the DMVs available in the model, right? So it shows that these three columns have a high cardinality because these 12 million records are actually unique and each and individual records, which means that that tabular model is actually column store. It's not a row store, which means that it stores as the columns. Each and individual column is compressed, and if you have a unique values, which means that you cannot do compressions, right? In this case, these three columns are not compressible, so that's why it's high cardinality columns. So if you remove these three columns, we'll see what happens, because if you see that the 50% of your total model is actually taken from one column, and 33% of your model is taken from another columns. If you check these three columns alone, taking like maybe 80% or 90% of your total model space. So what I'm going to do is like, because I have more information about how each and individual column has taken space, and I know that I don't want these three columns in my model, and I can remove these three columns without any impact to my analysis. And what I'm going to do is like, I'm just gonna delete these columns in my model and see the impact to my total volume, right? So I'm going to remove the checksum column. I'm going to delete it here. Take in here, and then I'm going to remove the sales. The other column is online sales key column. Okay, there was another column, I think, the test ID column, right? Cool. Right. Let's go back to the desktop, and again I want to show you the size of my file. So you can see that the size is actually 700 MB before I save the file. So what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to save this file after deleting these three columns. Okay. Still saving. Cool. You can see that instantly our 700 MB file is reduced to 31 MB. So only thing we did was like we deleted 3 columns. So the idea is like with the DAX Studio's Vertipack analyzer, you can have an idea about how each and individual object, how each and individual column is taking space in your model, and then you, with that information, you can actually minimize the size of your model. You can optimize the size of your model from like a couple of times. In this case, in my case, like I saw there are high coordinate columns, and if I remove the high coordinate columns, I actually save a lot of space in your model, right? So in that case, like I have a workable model in my Power BI side. The next thing what I'm going to do is like, so DAX Studio, the functionality of DAX Studio is not only that. The main functionality of DAX Studio is actually to write DAX, right? So if you are learning DAX in here, and if you are wanted to create measures and write complicated DAX queries, Power BI Desktop is not the ideal place. So what you can do is like you can actually write the DAX queries in here. For example, like it has good IntelliSense facility. You can say that, okay, I want to evaluate, and whatever you can drag and drop the columns and it will generate the DAX for you, and you can get the information in here. Output in here, yeah. So you can see the values coming from the and as well as you can see all the functions available. If you are not familiar with all the functions, you can go to the functions here and you can drag and drop these functions. Like let's say that you want to see how the all works, and if you can, to the tooltip, you can see what each individual function does. You can give an example of how it works. So DAX Studio is the ideal place to you to learn DAX as well as write the complex calculations. That's not the other thing. So there, if I say that, okay, I have created a visualization here and see that, okay, there's some kind of a performance impact in my Power BI query, the Power BI visualizations. Let's say that if I click on sales model, it takes a lot of time to load the data. In this is a hypothetical scenario. Like what you have to do is like, if you know that there's a performance issue, in Power BI Desktop, there's pretty much nothing you can do. You know that performance impact, but there's no more information available for you. One thing you can do is like, only things available in Power BI Desktop is you can go to the performance analyzer and see that, okay, how much it take in time. So if you enable the performance analyzer in Power BI Desktop, and let's say that if you start recording and click on some visualization, it gives you information about like how much time the DAX took, how much time visualization take, and all the other information. But that's it. You pretty much don't know. We know the time is taking, but we don't know why it's taking time, where we can fix the issue. So what you can do is in here, you know that in the Power BI, you can copy the DAX query. In this case, like let's say this is the matrix, and I'm going to copy the query in here, and I'm going to paste that query in the DAX Studio. So with that, you can start do your query debugging. The first thing I'm going to do is like I'm going to format this query because it kind of looks messy. So I can select this one and click the format query, and it will make your query in a better readable format, right? So once I do that, I can execute this query in DAX Studio and get the same data set is given to the Power BI Desktop. This is the output actually given to the Power BI Desktop. So then what I can do is you can see that you have the query plan and the server timing enabled. So if I click on these two and again execute this query, it takes certain times to now it's enable this one and execute the query. There's something in the down there. You can see that query plan information as well as server time. So if you are coming from the development background and if you know SQL Server Tabular Engine, you know how to interpret the query plan, right? But this is for a very advanced user. But whereas in here, it shows you how the server timing happens in your tabular model, right? It gives you information like how much total time it took to execute and how much query, what are the queries actually executed within the tabular engine, and whether it's a scan type, and in here it shows you how much percentage, how much time it took in the formula engine, how much time it took in the storage engine. And if you know from the if you're doing a performance enhancement, you know that Power BI formula engine or the tabular model formula engine is single threaded, which means that if you are one query is executing for a long time, all other queries have to wait for executing the formula engine, and on the other hand, the tabular model storage engine is multi-threaded, which means that it can process or it can execute multiple queries simultaneously. So the idea is like use as much as storage engine and you use less time for the formula engine. But in my case, like 99% of my query is taken from the formula engine. So I know that there's something wrong. On the other hand, I know that this query is actually taken from the cache. So you know that Power BI is heavily using the cache, so that it takes a lot of cache. So I don't want to get that information from the cache query. So what I can do is I can clear the cache, right? And then I can execute the same query with the clear cache. We'll see how it's execute when the cache is not available. In this case, you will see that it takes different values. In this case, like it doesn't take storage engine, it doesn't take formula engine 90%, but it takes 70%, and the query is not using any cache at all. So in that case, like I know that how the result set is cached in Power BI, how the performance is, and how the result set is not cached, how the performance is, which engine is which formula, which section of your tabular model is using the more times, and likewise. And if you go for the advanced section, you can do something very cool, which, for example, like let's see that if you go for the server and if this query is giving a different values, different execution statistics in different time, what you can do is like you can execute this query in a benchmark fashion, which means that if you click this run benchmark option, it gives you that option to run the same query multiple times from cold cache and the warm cache. So in that case, like you can get an idea about when multiple users see the same report, same visualization, how the impact of the what are the statistics you can get from this particular measure, the particular query. So if I run this one, I say that okay, execute same query 5 times in the cold cache and execute same query in the warm cache in 5 times. If I quickly run this one, it will execute these same queries from the studio multiple times, and it will give you a statistics information about how each and every how the average execution time, all those information for this query. So in that case, you have a better understanding about when multiple people are accessing your report, what's the their user experience. In this case, you can see that when this query is executed in the cold cache, the average time is like 238 millisecond, and if the warm cache is 16 millisecond, likewise you can get information about the summary information. And if you go to the detail, you can get the more information, like how much time it took in the CPU, how much time it took in storage engine. Likewise, there are a lot of information available which is not available in the Power BI desktop to the troubleshooting, right? So there are a heap of things I can cover in the DAX Studio, but again, I want to cover a lot of tools, so I'm going to stop the cover in the DAX Studio. I want you to go and install it and start using DAX Studio and do the troubleshooting, performance analysis, Vertipack, or the things that you can do in the Power BI desktop, the advanced stuff, right? If you have any questions, just let me know. I can't see the screen. If you are there.
Yeah, sorry, I was unmuting.
No worries. Yeah, it's okay. Because I can't see the question panel or the chat window.
Yep, I'm checking on the chat. There
Yep.
are no questions yet. But if you
Good.
guys, I think I want to ask, because I think that's everyone is thinking about it. All the toolkits, are they free to download, or do?
Yeah, so pretty much everything I'm going to show in here is free, and I think almost apart from the Tabular Editor version 3, which is going to be a financial model, the one I'm using is free. Version 2 is free. Version 3 is going to be like a paid tool, but you can use the one I'm going to show is as a free one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I have managed to sort out my the performance issue. I have managed to sort out my storage issue. The next thing what I'm going to do is like I'm going to clean this model, because if you can check my data set, it's not in a very user-friendly manner. There's no spaces. There are so many unwanted columns. there are columns that these things actually business user is not interested. So what I'm going to do is like I'm going to open the tabular editor for those. So the tabular editor is the coolest tool that I have seen. It's a free tool. So when I open this one, it will ask that, okay, there are some of the experimental features available. So whether you want to open it or not, right? So in my case, like I'm going to go ahead with that one. So this is the tabulator tool, a normal Windows form application. But what it does is like it connect to your model and allow you to do heap of cool things in a very easy manner. So the first thing what I'm going to do is like I'm going to hide all these columns which I don't want in my Power BI. So things like all these keys. So easiest thing is if you click on this one and you can see that make invisible, right? And it allows to give you the shortcut key as well, Control-I. So if I click on this one and click all the way up to here and select, I don't want this one, load date and upload date, and press Control-I, it will go as grayed out, right? And then I'm going to do the same thing for other things as well. I don't want this to be visible. That's the only thing I don't want to see in this table. And go to dim store. I don't go store key, geographic key to visible the business users. It's pretty much something we do in all the Power BI models, just to clean up our model, just so that business user can have a clean look on my models, not having the all unwanted IDs, columns, all those stuff, right? So I'm going to select all the unwanted IDs, which again these things business user will not do any analysis. And go to the only thing I do is I select this one. I can go Control or I can use Shift and press the Control-I. Very easily I can hide each and individual one. Right. I'm going to click this one and go to the dim custom as well. As we can all this metadata information coming from the data warehouse I don't want. So I managed to hide these things in here. But if you go to the Power BI desktop file, all those things are still available because I only did the operations in here, which is not actually affected in my model. To make these changes I did to affect in my Power BI desktop file, there's something called Save the Changes to the Connected Database. When you click this one, you'll see what happened to my Power BI model. You will see that immediately all those columns that I showed in here, for example, factor online sales, all the keys are no longer visible in my model, right? So that easily you can hide all the columns, right? Then I'm gonna hide it in here because I don't want to see any of this in here as well. The next thing what I'm going to do is like if you can see that all those columns are using the column names, are actually using the camel case, right? The camel case is or the Pascal case is what the database people use. But for the business users, we don't want to have column names or field names like this. They actually prefer the spaces, right? They want to see at the proper case. For example, sales space, order space, numbers. That's what we normally do when we give a model to the business user. If I want to do that, I want to right click on each and every one. I have to rename it in the model, which takes a lot of time. So the tabular model, the most important thing is advanced scripting. So what they have done is like the tabular model developers, they actually use a more DL, and then on top of that they have created a wrapper class, wrapper framework, which means that if you are not expert in C#, you can actually write certain codes on top of that. For example, like let's say that I'm going to write something like selected, right? So because whatever the object that I'm going to pick in this one is referring from the selected, and then when I type the dot, it gives you intelligence that what you're going to do. So if I say that okay, selected column dot name is equal to say that Asanka. So what I'm going to do is like I'm going to select a specific column. Let's see, just have a look at what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this column and I'm going to execute the code that I've written. Immediately when I execute, sorry, I have to the end line. So when I click this one, you will see what happens. You see that, okay, you see that my column name is actually changed into the name that I specified in here, right? So with that features, like there are other heap of functions available in here, you can manipulate all those objects in a programmable manner, right? Which you cannot in the desktop, right? So what I'm going to do is like the good thing is like whenever you click, press Control Z, you can undo all those changes you do in here. So I just press the Control Z and go back to this one. So what I'm going to do is like first thing, I'm going to rename these things into the proper case. If you're not good at writing codes, if you go to the tabular editor document page, there's a heap of uh, written codes, small code snippet that you can use, and with the each and individual functionalities of, for example, like what I'm going to show is like I'm going to show you how to create a measure from the columns, how to generate time intelligence, all those codes. You just copy and paste this code and execute. For example, the first thing what I want to do is like camel case to a proper case. So there's something called camel case to proper case in here. If you go down in this one, you can copy and paste this code as it is, right? Let's copy this one and let's paste in the script inside. So what it does is like for each and every object that I'm going to select in here, it actually do certain things and actually introduce a space in middle of the uppercase character. Let's see whether this works. So what I'm going to do is like I'm going to select these all the columns and execute this code, right? Immediately you will see that there's a space introduced in middle, right? So which means that I can do for all the columns available in my model, right? Here and execute in here, going to go here, execute in here. Very quickly, I'm going to rename my files the way the business user would like to see, right? Okay, I did the renaming. Let's go and save this one in model, and you will see that immediately this will go break because I have already used this in the my measures. So just forget about that one, because remember that gives you a good idea as well. Before you do any modification to your metadata, make sure you don't do the visualization first. Create the model first, do the cleaning everything first, and then do the visualization. If not, all the visualization can break. Okay, so remember, now I did the changes, I did the renaming here, and now the business user have a proper readable format in your object rather than having a camel case. And if you do it one by one manually, it takes a lot of time to rename all those objects one by one. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is like, that if you're creating a Power BI model, each and individual measures, each and individual columns, in my case, like if you go the fact online says, it actually columns. These are actually columns available in my model. As a best practice, what we normally do is like we hide the columns and we create a measure on top of that. There are a couple of reasons for that one, but if you don't know, you do a bit of searching why we do it. But it's always good to hide the columns and create a standard or the default measure for the same column. For example, like you hide the discount amount and create a discount amount measure, right? In that case, you can refer that one in any place you want, right? And it does not give you the performance impact. It's just too easy for you to do other related work when you do something like that. So what I'm going to do is like, again, go back to my snips, the web page, and then I'm going to copy this code, which basically does is create the measure, right? Create a measure for column and copy this code. I'm not writing anything. I'm just copying the code. So what it does is like for each selected columns, it creates sum measure, right? So remember, this is only for the sum. If you want to change for the average or something like that, you have to change this code. But this is only for the sum. What it does is like for each and individual columns, it gets one and then it hide the columns for that one. So what I'm going to do is like I'm going to select sales quantities, sales amount, return quantities, return amount, discount quantity, discount amount, and these are the measures that I want to actually. These are the columns that I want to hide and create the default measures. And I'm going to execute this code. And you will see that all these columns are gone, and on top of that, it actually creates the measures. And let's save this one to here, right? Cool. Right. The next thing what I'm going to do is like, because I think I have to be very quick when it's come to time. The very common requirement for the Power BI is like they will ask you time series measure for each and individual measures, right? For example, like the sales quantity, they will ask you YTD, QTD, PTD, all those stuff, right? So what I do is like I have a, again query which actually do the same thing. But in this case, what I have done is like I actually saved a query. So for that, I can open the save query in here. Let's go here. Only thing I have done is like I have copied the query, but I have changed my time series dimension name, as well as I have given a folder name called time series folder. So all the measures created from this script, it actually go to the new folder. So what it does is like whatever the measure I select here, okay, remember whatever the measures I select here, for each and individual measures, it will create YTD, previous year, year-on-year comparison, year-on-year comparison percentage, QTD, MTD, all the time series measures in a single click. Okay, let's see what happens. If I click this one, it will create a folder, and within the folder, we will see all those measures, right? It's not saved to the Power BI file yet. So when I process this one, right, we'll quickly go to my folders and you will see it in here. Till saving because I have created a lot of measures. So you imagine like if you want to create the same set of measures, so same time series measures, how long does it take in the Power BI desktop, right? It's just a matter of copy and paste in code and do some kind of code changes and just click in the file. Okay. Let's check in some time to push all those changes to the Power BI file. I hope this will not crash, because remember these tools are like third-party tools. No, it's not. So if you go with the Power BI desktop files, all the changes I did in the tabular models is now effective. So you have all those measures, you have all the time series measures available in a couple of seconds. And if you are thinking these are not working, I can show you that these actually give the information that you really want. Let's say that if you go in the MTD, it gives you the total MTD functions. The same thing you write in your DAX Studio if you use in the Power BI desktop to write these measures. Very simply, same measures are written in no time, right? Cool. There's another thing I want to show you. There's another cool feature which is called best practice analysis. So the best practice analysis is like, so if you create a Power BI file, you see that there are certain standards that we follow. The best practices are changing from company to company, but there are standard best practices we do with the Power BI. So what you can do is like you can go to the tools and manage best practices, and there's a best practices file available in the Power BI. If you go in here, best practice analyzer, they have a file. You can go to the JIT and you can download that file. I have already downloaded that file. What you can do is like you can add that file in here. And let's go to the best practice analysis. I have downloaded. Yep. So this is actually a JSON file which define that these are the rules I want to apply on top of this model, and it allows you to see which areas these rules are actually violating. For example, if I collapse this one, I'll show you what are the best practices. Check that. Provide format string for the visible numeric columns. Do not use floating point data types. Do not summarize numeric columns. Like heap of things that you should do when you're creating a nice model, right? So you can see that how many of these are violated and at which point these best practices are violated within your model, right? So what I'm going to do is like I'm going to select all this because I don't have time. I'm going to select all this. I'm going to say that, okay, apart from this one, which is do not summarize numeric column, I'm going to ignore all the rules, right? So in here, it will show you that, okay, these are the columns which I have as a numeric in my model. And by default, what Power BI does is like all the numeric columns. For example, like let's go for the dim date, right? All the numeric columns, calendar day, week, calendar month, they are actually aggregated. You can drag and drop in here. It actually give you a one value, aggregated value for that field. But I don't want these fields to be aggregated, right? Because these are actually attribute which I will showcase in my report as an individual. So what I want to do is like I want to, set these do not summarization property for each and individual property. It's an individual column. If I want to do that, it will take a lot of time. But what the best practice analysis say that, okay, these are the columns actually have that problem. Do you want to fix that one? So you can apply a fix as well. What you can do is like, I'm going to select all these and say that, okay, these things I want to like, uh, for example, I can say that, okay, apart from these columns, like let's say, let's go for the total cost. I want to summarize. No, I don't want to summarize it. Let's go for the okay, employee count maybe, right? Or maybe selling area size, or let's say the total income, total children, number of children's, number of cars. These things actually numeric columns that I want to keep, and rest of the columns I actually don't want to summarize, right? So I can say that, okay, ignore these items, and then I can say that, okay, select all these and apply the fix, right? And I apply the fix, it go back, and then I save this in here. Remember, have a look on these columns. You have a sigma symbol in here, and then when I deploy these changes back to the Power BI model and see what happens. All the sigma symbols are gone, which means that you, from the script, from the best practice analysis, it fixes all the problems you had in your Power BI model, right? That's that's a very important feature. That's very important thing that you can do is, which in very minimum time you can make sure that your model is in a standard, right? And it gives the fix as well. Okay, so next thing what I'm going to show is like, if I want to publish this all the changes to my Power BI service, is either 1 or 0, which means that I either all the changes I did go to the service, or none of the changes goes to the service. But let's say that, okay, I'm doing some kind of a feature development, and then I see that, okay, certain things are ready to the business user in my model, and certain measures are not ready. I need to do some testing. But in my case, like if I push this publish button, all the measures that I've been working, all the changes I've been working will go to the business user. But I don't want to happen to that one. So that is where the next tool is AML Toolkit comes to play. So what AML Toolkit does is actually it gives you a comparison between two data models and show you excuse me, sorry, show you how the difference between these two tables. In my case, like the first source is the model. Then the other one is that the one I have deployed to my Power BI service, which is already available in my Power BI service. Let's go to the Power BI service. So this is the model that available in my server, right? So if I go here and do quickly try to edit this one. Okay, so this is the model which I deployed first, which has all those things. None of the changes I did right now is in this service, right? So you see that all the sigma symbols, you don't see all the time series one, you don't see all the measures, you don't see the camel case, capsule, proper case things. These are the original one I had in the service. So now what I do is like I get the XML endpoint URL for this model and do a comparison between these two. Right? Let's do a comparison, and it will ask you to give it authentication, and let's open it in here. I think it's going to my other screen. Okay, yeah. So what it does is like it compare the file that I developed in my Power BI desktop and the file available in my Power BI service, right? Wait till it gives you all the information from the XML endpoint. Check the data. Still taking time. Just be patient. I think data is already here. Just do the comparison between those two files. Right, cool. So now it gives an information about, okay, these are the objects available in your source file, which is in the desktop, and all those things are missing in your model available in the Power BI service. And you say that if I do that, you need to create these things, and these local, remember those date times, those are actually deleted in your new file, right? So it gives an impression, it gives you a comparison between, say that, okay, these are the changes happen to your model, and these are the changes not available in your desktop. And if you can go in here, you can say that okay, you can hide skip object. The skip object is that the things that you're not going to do any changes, right? And then you can give a better understanding of what has happened, right? And then what you can do is actually you can say that okay, these are the measures that I develop, right? And I can say that okay, I want all these measures, right? And I don't want any measures related to a sales quantity, right? So I can say that okay, I want all these, but none of these measures, remember, none of these related. These are, for example, I say that okay, these are not ready to go to the production, right? These measures I created, but these all other thing changes are ready to go to the production. So what I can do is like I can say that skip, right click on this one, skip selected object, right? So you can go to the skip, and then I can say that validate selection, right? It do the selection whether my selections are validated, right? Cool. Remember what are the changes I skipped? I skipped the any measures I selected for the sales quantity, but all other things are selected. Then what I can do is actually still doing the validation, I think. Was it? Yep. Yep. Done the validations, just click on OK. And then I can click on the update. Now what it does is like it skip these things I selected in my model and push all other changes to the Power BI service. Let's see whether it works the way we want to work. Let's committing the changes to Power BI service. Let's keep our eye on this, right? We might have to refresh this model to see all the changes. Time, right? So the metadata is deployed and it do a process. So you can select what process you want to do, whether you want to do the full process. In my case, I have said that I want to do a recalc, which means that it only actually do a calculation process. It actually does not push you the data. So this is another good thing, right? When you deploy the model in here, you actually deploy the data when you click on the publish. But in this case, it actually doesn't take much time because it does not actually push the data. It actually do the metadata operation, right? So if you go and here, go back in here, you might have to refresh. You now see that all these changes I did in desktop is pushed into the Power BI. But remember, I said that I don't want the changes to sales quantity. Those measures are not, but all other things that I said I want to have in my service are now available in my Power BI service. And it's just a metadata operation. So that's how cool AML Toolkit is. You can do selective deployment to the Power BI model, as well as you can pick what your process model is. You can say that I don't want to process at all, I just push the metadata, or you can say that okay, just push the process recalc, which means that when you do a changes, it do the other calculations to the related measures as well, just to the safe side. And you can say that process on the affected table. There are a heap of options you available in the AML toolkit as well, right? So there's other tool I want to show, which is one is the Power BI helper. I don't think I have time, so I will wrap up in here, but I want you to have a look on these three tools, especially AML Toolkit, DAX Studio, and Tabular Editor, and use it in your development. I'm pretty sure that it will save a lot of your time and it will give you a best result in your Power BI development. Right. The slide wise, I think I wanted to emphasize this slide. So these are the people who we need to be grateful about developing these two. I think Darren Gobsell and the community. So most of these tools are community driven. You can find the code in GitHub and you can contribute to this code, right? And if you go to the tabulator, you can get the code in the tabulator for the GitHub. Christian Wade is the one who's developed the ML toolkit. It's kind of an old tool we use in the tabular model development back in the days. And the Power BI helper is developed by Reza Red and the Red Cat team. So these are the tools we should be grateful, but these are not the only people. There are a heap of other tools, cool tools available in the Power BI, which helps to you and which saves a lot of your time. Right? So I have 1 minute, I think so. Any questions?
All right. The floor is open for questions. So,
You're in mute.
yep. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So the floor is open for questions. If you have any questions, you can put it on the chat. We have one coming in. These external tools are cool. Why aren't they part of standard PBI instead to avoid the risk of external tools suddenly not working when PBI is upgraded?
Well, the one thing is like the reason they introduced the external tool is like there are a heap of things that you can do, and the community itself, especially the Daniel, I think they come up and say that okay, we can contribute the Power BI because Power BI team is actually a commercial product and they put the focus on different features, whereas as a community we can, because they have given the access to the DLL, the class library, we found that okay, we can do the community found that we can do a lot of things using the DLL. That's why. But if you're worried about whether tools will not be working after a certain update, I really doubt it, because these tools are actually heavily used in Power BI standard as well. Because if you go for the Power BI side, they promote these tools, so which means that these are not like a kind of a pirates, or these are not a hack kind of tools. These are actual tools supported by Power BI, and the external tool program is supported by Power BI team.
Yeah, I think the DAX Studio is a great tool. I like how it can let you test and investigate the performance of your.
Yep.
It's very nice. Let me see if we have any other questions here. Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to put it on the chat, or you can use the raise hand icon. Let me just check on the live if we have any questions on that side. Yeah, I do. There are no. Do you have? If they want to find out more about these tools, do you have a blog where they can visit it, or is there any location where the resources can be found?
If you go for each individual tool site, because for example, DAX Studio, Tabulate, ML Toolkit, they have their own site and they have done proper documentation of how to use with the samples.
Mm-hmm.
And even if not, like if you do a searching about the Google, you have a heap of videos available done by the each and individual developers for the each individual tools.
Awesome. All right. I'm giving 10 seconds for any more questions. If you have any, drop it on the chat. If not, then we'll gonna thank Asanka for his time. Going once. I think that's all the questions.
We are good, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Asanka. This is very useful tools you showed to us. Pretty
Thanks.
powerful. Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Thank you for giving the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your session. It's very enlightening. Yeah. So if you have any feedback about the session, you can drop it on the evaluation form. If you have any questions for Asanka, I think he shared his social media handles earlier, so you can contact him if you want. We're just gonna pause for a few minutes before our next session. Thank you very much, Asanka.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah. Before we proceed to our next session, I just wanna go back to some of the announcement that we had earlier. So let me just drop this link to the chat so that everyone can pick it up from there. So if you want to evaluate the session, feel free to drop it. You can drop it on the chat. I dropped the link for the evaluation on the chat. And then Then yeah, our next session is infra as a code for automating data pipelines using ARM template. But before that, I just want to go back to these two announcements. The Azure Data Community in Asia Pacific now has their own meetup group. If you want to be updated for their events, kindly for our events, because APAC Data Community is a collaboration between the local user groups from different countries in Asia. So if you want to be updated with their event, feel free to check out their meetup group and join. And then the other announcement that we had earlier is the Singapore Data Platform User Group, our group, is now on the community tenant for Teams. If you want to be part of the Teams channel, wherein you can join the channel, drop a question to everyone, network, and you can network with everyone. We're gonna put up a channel for networking. So if you want to join that, you can grab this form and fill up your name and email address, and then we're gonna add you to the teams. The old teams that we have, we will try to move the resources to the new one. But for the users, we'll see how we can do it. We might ask you guys. We might drop you a mail or ask you to fill up the form itself before we transfer you, so that just to make sure that everyone wants to be transferred to the new Teams channel. So from now on, all our future events will be through this Teams channel, the Singapore Data Platform User Group channel on Community Teams. All right. So
Yeah.
on to our second session. Our next session is a infra as a code for automating data pipelines using ARM with our very own Muhammad Asif. He's a Microsoft MVP for Azure. If you don't know him, he's one of our organizers here in Singapore Data Platform User Group, and he also is very active in organizing for the Azure group for Singapore. He's a certified blockchain architect, and like I said, Microsoft MVP. I'm gonna pass him the control so we can start.
Thanks, Pio.
Right.
Thanks for. Yeah, let me share my screen. Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Asif, we can see.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for staying too late, and thanks for joining today. My name is Asif, and today I'm going to talk about infra as a code to automate your data pipelines. It's using ARM templates. About me, I am a solution architect at Abhinav Bank and a Microsoft MVP, and I'm a certified blockchain developer and architect. In today's agenda, we will actually this session came to my mind a few months back, because when I was doing the deployment of some resources, and I find out the error in basically my development and UAT was working, but the production got issue. So we deployed some of the resources on dev and QA, but somehow there was a bug in production. So we find out that that there was some script differences in QA, dev, and production. So in that kind of scenario, this session might be helpful. And actually, it's quite a beginner session, so you don't need to have any prerequisite about IAC, means infrastructure as code, or Azure Data Factory, or either DevOps. So maybe I will try to touch each topic a bit. Okay, just to give an overview. So before going to start is what is IAC, infrastructure as a code? Okay. So if you talk about infrastructure as a code, it in simple words is infrastructure as a code means to manage your infrastructure means like your networks, virtual machines, load balancer, and connection topology using configuration files. But means the question comes when means where exactly we can use, like where exactly we can use infrastructure as a code, and in terms of data pipelines, in terms of deploying your resources, or in any other scenario. So as of now, means like most of the people are doing like they are sitting down and physically deploying the resources, and means like configuring your infrastructure. But when you are configuring your infrastructure with the help of configuration files, either it is your bash shell scripting, or maybe the ARM templates, or maybe some other third-party tools like Terraform or Plumi. So that is like infrastructure as a code, because you are deploying your resources programmatically, and in multiple environments. So it, because in human, in human errors might be happen, like because when I'm deploying my resources on a dev environment, suppose I'm trying to create resources for means deploying a data factory. Okay, so I'm trying to create a resources for the storage and key vault and all other resources. So that might be some parameters are different in QA to dev, and might be also it's different from production to QA. So in that kind of scenario, we might face a lot of issues, and it might takes a lot of time. But when we generate configuration files for our infrastructure, and we deploy with the help of configuration files by passing the parameter in for the dev, QA, and production. So because configuration file is same, and we are just dynamically passing the parameter for QA, dev, and in production environment. So our there will be no human errors. There will be no any issues while deploying the resources. So in that kind of cases, it is very helpful either for deploying any kind of resources. Okay. So what exactly it helps to benefits, like because we are in the cloud, cloud era, and in terms of while we are deploying the resources, either it's on-premise or maybe your cloud network, because sometimes you might, if it's a very complex or big application, so you might need to scale the application dynamically, and means you need to means sometimes you need to remove the resources because to save the cost and all. So if you are doing manually such kind of things, it might be very tedious task. So IAC is very helpful to speed up that kind of process, because there are configuration files, and which can speed up your deployment, and there will be means like consistency in your deployment, and it will be means that who have deployed and what time, because all the deployment will be in the team, so all the team members can collaborate to each other, and means like one person can, I mean, like 3 to 4 people can work on the same data pipelines, or maybe same deployment process. And it also helps to improve your accountability and change management process, because that who have deployed this change and because of what, and this caused the issue. And the third thing is, like, it also helps to reduce your cost, because that if you can put the conditional statement to to deploy your resources, for if you are going to, that before 4 to 5 p.m. my application receives a lot of traffic, so it might be we need to improve, we need to add some more resources for that. So in that kind of scenario, you can add the resources, like if your traffic's increased by so much percent, so you can increase the traffic, and after that you can just reduce the resources. So that also helps to reduce your cost, and that which version you are deploying for your DevOps and process, and it also helps to do the testing. In current scenario, there are a couple of tools available for infrastructure as a code, and but there is a slight difference in infrastructure as a code and configuration management as a code. Infrastructure as a code is purely managing and provisioning your infrastructure on the cloud or your on-premise environment. But configuration management as a code comes under like how you are configuring your configuration files or parameters. So there are different tools like Terraform, CloudFormation, Plumi, and Azure ARM templates. In this session, I'm going to talk about a bit about the ARM templates, because ARM templates is provided by Microsoft Azure, and they helps to automate your infrastructure. So there are two types of infrastructure as a code tools. Is one is the third-party tools, and another one is the cloud provided tools. So cloud provided tools might be like Azure ARM templates and CloudFormation from AWS, and the third-party tools are Terraform and Plumi and Google Cloud Deployment Manager for GCP. I will not talk. Yeah, let me just go ahead. So before, if you are new to Azure Data Factory, so let's just give you a basic overview what Azure Data Factory is. Azure Data Factory is basically a cloud-based ETL and hybrid data integration service. So this is it helps to create your data pipeline. Suppose you want to migrate your data, like your on-premise data, to Azure, or you want to set up a job, okay, and which helps to copy one file from one place to another place, and then you process those files. Like in our case, it's like we have a job like for transferring our board rates, because daily morning our FX rate comes in a one place, and we have to process those board rates into some other folder, and then it goes to our database. So in that kind of scenario, if you want to set up any ETL process in cloud environment, Azure Data Factory is very helpful. They provide actually the three types of activity. One is data movement, and another is data transformation, and then control activity. So it is a cloud-based ETL service, or you can say data integration platform, which is it is used to create data-driven workflows. So workflows for orchestrate and automate data movement activities. So with the help of that, you can just transform the data and optimize the process using the ETL scenario. It also helps to connect with the multiple data sources. Suppose you have you want to migrate some data from AWS to Azure. So in that kind of scenario, also Azure Data Factory is very helpful, because it provides resources which you can connect. In short while, I will show you how exactly that happens. So the advantage, so basically how exactly it works is, it's like suppose you want to transform your data like from AWS or to means like Microsoft Azure. So you can set up the ETL process, you can set up the data source and destination, and in Azure Data Factory you need to set up the data pipelines, and after setting the data pipelines you need to have a link services. Link services are nothing but like your configuration files or configuration strings, sorry. So ETL pipelines in our on-premise environment, like we use sometimes SSIS, and so like that you will create for the data factory, you will create the ETL pipelines for the data factory. Same thing it will do. And for connection string, we will set up the link services, and there will be data sets from source to destination, how you will how you will get the data from source to destination. And there will be also the triggers. So trigger will basically helps to trigger the job. You can say like suppose I want to copy the file from folder A to B, in some particular interval of time and some particular time. So with the help of trigger, you can run the job. And this all it is managed by integration runtimes. So integration runtime activities, there are different control activities, manage activities. Yeah. So in today's demo and the process, I am going to show you, we have two different folders. One is there is a one storage folder like in sync container, and there is a staging folder. So we are going to copy the file from sync to staging. And then after that, after processing the file, we are going to delete the files. So how exactly it will happen is, we have created the for 3 pipelines. One is for the development, UAT, and production. And after creating these pipelines, we will, with the help of ARM templates, we will automate the process of deployment from development to UAT and UAT to production. In development, we will have a few resources for creating the pipelines. One is Azure Resource Group. Then there will be storage for storing our files. And there will be Key Vault, is because we don't want to expose our connection string. So we will use Azure Key Vault settings for for setting up the connection string. And there will be Azure Data Factory, which will helps to create a pipelines for that. And then there will be Azure DevOps, because we want to automate the process with the help of Azure DevOps. So that's how it's going to be there. So let me show you in action. Actually, it's because reading the slides is like, okay. Okay, in current scenario, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to do is, from one container to another container, we are going to process the files. We are going to copy the files. So let me show you in currently in, sorry, let me close this. This is my storage containers. I have taken a Azure Blob storage. So I need to move my files from blob containers from sync to staging. So this is my sync and this is the staging. And for this process, I need to create a data pipelines. Okay, and once I am able to do this process, like means copying the file from one to another, and so this is the only one activity I'm doing. Means like, but for later on, if you want to do that, so you can add multiple more activities. So later I will show you how exactly. Currently, I haven't keep any validations in the pipeline. Then I will show how exactly we will do that also. For development, UAT, and production, we will first I am going to create for the development, and then with the help of ARM templates, I'm going to replicate the process for the UAT in production. So this process can be done in 2 ways, basically with the help of ARM templates from dev to QA and QA to production. There is a means like from a visual way, you can upload the export and import the ARM templates directly. And the second way is doing the completely automated process by using Azure DevOps. So let me show you how exactly it happens is, okay. In current scenario, I have already created the data pipelines because it takes some time, but I will show you how exactly step by step how it happens. So this is my data pipeline. If you have any questions, so you can unmute and can ask, or maybe you can put in the chat box because I am not monitoring the chat box.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm monitoring the chat for you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. So this is my pipeline I have created for the data pipeline I have created for that. And it's quite simple pipeline for moving the files from one folder to another folder. So what exactly I'm doing here is I'm getting all the files list, which is present in storage container. It's like in our case, we have a storage container called sync for this pipeline, the development pipeline. And after reading the all files from a storage container, so this is my storage container sync. I'm reading all the files from here, and then I'm filtering the files based on it's like suppose if you want to process only the text file, or you want to process some some kind of it's like out file or anything. So then I'm doing the loop for these files and copying to another container. After copying, I am doing the delete activity. So how exactly I have created this? Let me show you. And there are data sets. So basically these data sets are like your it's like container location. So because to link with your pipeline, to your storage container, because where exactly you are saving your file, you need data sets basically, and for that you need to create the connection, because how you will connect your data pipelines to your storage or any other service by using connection string, and that connection string is nothing but a linked service here. And so if you can see here, this is my linked service for Azure Blob Storage, and I'm using Azure Key Vault. But to connect to the Key Vault, we also need another link service, which I have already created here. So let me show you one sample by creating one by one. So first of all, basically, if we want to create a data pipeline, so we need to know a few things. First of all, we should have any resource group, and let me go and create quickly a resource group. In my current setup, I have done the naming conventions like dev, QA, and production. So it's like because it is very helpful when you are is automating the process, because you just need to pass the environment variable here. Like suppose when I'm going to create a pipeline, so I cannot pass these parameters like hard coded or so, because we have to increase the reusability. So what exactly I will do is I will make this variable as an environment variable in our data pipelines, and then I will pass this environment like that. Okay. So that's why I have given my naming convention, like if you see here, it's like a data fac rg dev prod and uat. So I will save this as an environment variable and then pass. So it's better if you are going to create a data pipelines and you are going to automate with your Azure DevOps. So please, make the naming convention quite better. Okay, and after creating this resource group for creating the data pipelines, what exactly we need is because we need a storage account, we are going to store the files, and in a storage account we should have two containers, like because we are going to copy the files from one container to another container. And in your case it might be different, like because it might be a scenario that you are going to copy the files from one blob storage to maybe some other the blob storage or the network. So but you can configure with the help of the linked services there. So let me go and create quickly Azure storage account. So if you see here, my storage account name is also a bit similar like that. Let me... It's not taking the hyphen, so it's let's see. Oh, okay. I'm going to deploy in West Europe region. Okay, for I'm taking this standard account, and actually I don't need for this because there are different types of storage, like a locally redundant storage. Basically, it will help to create only means one container, and means you don't means like it will not be suppose if there is a down of the storage or maybe the Azure services, so it will help to maintain only that storage, there will be 3 containers which will be, maintaining their services. But if it is a local, means like a zone redundant storage and geo redundant storage, so if the one data center is down, so another data center will be up for availability. So basically it's for your availability. For this demo, I'm just going to select the local storage, and this is the blob storage, so locally redundant blob storage. Okay. And next is this was next I'm going to create the key vault, because for connecting to the storage account, I can pass in data pipelines, I can pass the connection string as well. But it's always better to you store your key secrets in Azure Key Vault. I think by mistake I have created in a different region. So make sure your all data pipeline storage, everything is in same region. Let me quickly delete this and make in the same region. Okay, next is Azure Key Vault. So basically in Azure Key Vault, this will help to secure your credentials. So I need to choose which resource group I am going to choose. So this is Azure Key Vault will be in my dev storage Key Vault name. Yeah, this looks okay. So the pricing tier will be standard, and then let's create. So this is what I'm doing is I am trying to create the infrastructure for our pipelines. So first of all, we need resources. Then second, we need a storage account because we need to store the files. And third, for connecting the resources, we need is from a storage account to we need a key vault for storing our credentials. And then we will create the data pipelines. After connecting to the data pipelines, we also need because we want to automate this whole process. So that's why we need Azure DevOps account for configuring with that. So let's see if my data storage. Okay, now let's go and create the Azure data pipelines, data factory. Okay, so basically it is asking you to configure the Git because as of now, we just want to test our data pipeline. So we don't want to create the Git. So we'll configure this later. So you can just go and create the data factory pipelines from here. Once you create, so your data factory pipeline will be ready for that. And then we need to configure our key vaults with the storage account. because we need to save our, so let's go for the storage. So this is our storage account, and access key, because storage account, this will be the access key connection string, and this connection string we will save in our key vault. So we need to come here as a secrets, and we need to generate a secret. So this is our manual secrets we are generating, and make sure you give your secret names, like for currently in my case what I'm doing is for dev, QA, and production, I'm giving the same secret name, because when you are replicating this pipeline in dev, QA, and production, so the key name of secret means you don't need to change. So like secret key dev. So you need to enter the value of the secret, and so it will help you to create the secret. Now what we need to do is your storage account secrets are saved in key vault, and we are done with Azure creating the Azure resource group. So we are done with creating the Azure resource group, Azure storage account, key vault account, and saving our the storage keys to the key vault account. And now what we need to do is creating the data factory pipelines. And after creating the data factory pipelines, we need to configure those pipelines into the DevOps. Because once we create the data factory pipelines, all the code for infrastructure as a code will be generated in terms of ARM templates. And that code for the development environment, we can automate same for the QA and production. So let me show quickly how exactly it works. Is this is data factory. Okay. So my data factory pipelines is okay. My data factory is ready. Now what I need to go is in, and this is author and monitor. So what exactly I need to do is, basically for the data, creating the data factory pipelines, you will work mostly with the pipelines data sets in this part, author section. And this monitor means like will helps you to mean like how many times your pipeline is running, is it being triggered? So it helps you to monitor that. And it also helps to provide means like what kind of activity is being performed. And if you want to set up any alerts or metrics, so you can set up here. Okay, and this is the linked services, means like basically when we will create the data pipelines, so we need to connect to our storage account. So for connecting to the storage account, we need to set up a linked service. That is nothing but a connection string. So all the linked service will display here. And this is the ARM template. So when we create our data pipeline, so what we can do is we can export this ARM template. And this is my dev environment. So same as this, there will be production environment or QA environment. So we can just go in production or QA, and we can import the template by changing the parameters for the QA and production. So that's how it works. So let me show you how exactly it works. Is so for creating the pipelines, there are a couple of ways. If you want to create the pipelines, the new pipelines, so you can create by choosing the new option. And there are already predefined some templates available. So let me show you how exactly. So suppose you want to copy the bulk data from database to Azure Explorer, or maybe copy from the database. So these are the predefined templates. So for in my case, what exactly I want to do is I want to copy the files from one container to another container, and after moving the file, I want to delete it. So there is a move template. So that's called move files. So what exactly it do? You need to provide the source folder. So currently for this pipeline, I don't have any source folder. So this source folder is nothing but your storage source folder. So you need to create a linked service for this. So let me source link. And actually I have already created also. You need to choose a blob storage type. Okay, and then you need to choose the Azure Key Vault for connecting to the Key Vault also, because this is all connection you are making. So connection, wherever you need a connection, you need a linked service. So you need to choose another link service, Azure Key Vault, and then you need to choose, because there is an option for like you want to choose from Azure subscription, or you want to do it for manually. So I will choose for Azure subscription, and it will show all my key vault names. So like currently I have done like Azure Key Vault, something like this. So yeah, you can test your connection, and once your connection is tested, okay, it will helps you to create a LinkedIn linked services for this, for Key Vault. Okay, and because this is secret name, so this is secret name for the Azure Key Vault. I have given, I explained before. For this Key Vault, because we made the connection, this is my, because I have added the Azure storage Key Vault connection string here. So this connection string name will be required for setting up your linked service here. And then you can just go and create your link service. This is my source. Same as it is, once I created, this is for the source, and same as it is, I need to create for the file for this is same will work for destination as well. Okay, because I'm using the same container but two different folders. So yeah, let's, if you want to pass any parameters, so you can pass here. Okay, and for this, let's go and create. So actually, I don't want to waste time in create, because I have already created for this. So let me show you. So once you choose all your data source folder, means by creating the the source folder for data files, and same for the destination. So you need to create the 3 different link service for moving your files, like for folders for destination, for source and destination, and yeah, for the files. Now once I create, so I can use this template for creating the data pipelines. So let me show quickly how exactly it works. Is in my data pipelines which I have created before. So in author panel, you can see here I have this is my data pipelines, and if you want to see, means like what is the source. So this is my source settings, like I have same as this Key Vault, storage access key name. This name is same in dev, QA, production, in all. And so mapping the folder will be here. Suppose you want to, because in my storage, I want to copy the files in 2 different containers. So I think I have created the container or not. Let me check. So in my storage account, because I haven't created the container. So container is nothing but your folders, kind of. Okay. So let's sync. And staging. So I want to move the files from sync to staging. So this mapping will be done here in the data sets. So you can choose the browse option in the data pipeline, and you can provide, it's like from which folder to which, because this is a source. So I will choose the source sync. Okay. And if this is the destination, so I will choose the staging. So like that, you can map your folders in the data sets. So now, and if you want to debug, because for running this data pipeline, there are some parameters we need to pass. This is parameters which we have provided in data sets. So there's a sync folder, and this is the staging folder where exactly we are copying the files from and to. For getting the files, all the files will be in sync folder, and then we will filter the files and copy the files into staging folder. So that's why we are passing these parameters. Currently in sync folder, if you have multiple folders inside sync folder, so you need to provide the directory name. But in my case, I don't have any directory, so I just provided the slash. Okay. Sorry. So then you can validate, means after creating, so same as this, there might be like copy data, and there might be validate. So there are different predefined templates available. You just need to pass the parameters and set up the link services to set up the job or the process. Suppose I want to, in current scenario, I am getting all the files in sync folder. Okay, in the sync folder, and then it is popping into staging, but it is not checking actually anything that files are there in sync folder or not. Okay, so what we can do is we can add any other process also. So this is just for overview for you to understand how we create the pipelines, but it is not like in this template you can add as many activities as you want as per your convenience. So for me, I will show how exactly how can I put the validation for checking if these files are there in this folder or not. First, let's run this and see if there is any issue or not. Okay, so let's put the debug point here and run this. It is asking this parameter because we have to pass the parameters for. So this is running the data pipelines. Okay, and so you can see what is the data which is passing. This is the container, and this is the directory, and there are no child items as of now because there is no files in this folder. So let me upload the file in this folder. Does anyone have any questions until here, or you know? Pio, any questions on chat box or anything?
Not right now.
Okay, thanks. So yeah. So as I copied the file, so this is successfully run already. So let's see. So you can see the data. Now let's, because just now I have copied one file in our in our dev sync container. So yeah, so this is our data pipelines run. Okay, so in this you can see there's download.png which I have copied in the sync folder. Then it filters all the files, means like if you want to means like process some particular file like txt file or jpg file or a png file, so you can filter here. And then we have another activity for it'll loop how many files are there, because there might be more files, more than one. So and then it will copy the files into the destination folder. So the destination folder is you can see all this destination activity here happening here. And then it will delete the file. So the file name is this, and it will delete the file from the sync folder, sync container. Okay, so now let me refresh it and see the file copied here. See, this is the download.png, and now the file will be gone here. So there is no file. Okay, now this is the simple data pipeline which I have created for basically for copying the files from one folder to another folder. But our objective is now I want to automate this process in UAT and production. So how we can do that is, this is for Azure Data Factory. When you are when you will create the pipeline. Okay, so I don't want to let me save all. Okay. So once you will, when you create the first time, so it will be in the switch live mode. So there will be, because I haven't configured my DevOps Azure DevOps until yet to automate this process. So what it will be is it will be something like that. But if you want to automate this whole infrastructure, so what you need to do is you need to first of all you need to configure the Azure DevOps. So you need to choose the Azure DevOps. And once you choose the Azure DevOps, because I have already configured, it will it is not showing. Otherwise, it will show you connection, settings. You need to provide your subscription. You need to provide your directory, all those settings. So and in Azure DevOps also, you need to let me show you how exactly you will do that. You need to go in Azure DevOps. There will be organizational settings. So you need to configure your Active Directory there, first of all. So this is the organization settings. I'm going here. And you need to configure your Active Directory here, first of all. So after configuring your Active Directory, it will recognize your if you have anything here. Okay, then what we need to do is we need to create the projects. So this project we need to configure into data pipelines. Okay. So what exactly I need to do is once you configure your data pipelines, Active Directory with your Azure DevOps. So all this main branch and it will also ask you for setting up your Git repo. So because whenever you will, it's in this option only, I think because I have already configured the main branch and my Git repo, so that's why the settings are not showing here. But if you are doing the first time, so it will ask your Git credentials, everything it will ask you. Okay. So after configuring, it will show you like how many branches if you have in your Azure DevOps, and then accordingly it will show. And this ADF publish is once we deploy our data pipeline, so that will go in ADF branch. Okay. So currently, if you see here, after configuring to your data pipelines in that folder, so this is my repo. Your project will be shown like this, and it will have your parameter ARM templates. It's like whatever the pipeline you have created, the ARM templates for that, and there's any link templates, global parameters, everything will be automatically will appear here. So let me show how exactly it happens is just create one. Suppose I want to create a new branch. Okay, so let me create a new branch, developer. So what it will do is it will clone your data pipelines, existing data pipelines in branch 2 for with your Azure DevOps. So now let's go and so you can see here now the branch came as a developer 2, and it also copied all my files of my data set, data factory, pipelines, triggers, everything here. So, and this is the pipelines trigger, okay, and the data sets. So let me show exactly. This is my move JSON file, which I have created as a pipeline. Okay, this is all my linked services. This is all my triggers here, and my data sources. Sorry, let me close a few things. Sorry, just let me close a few things here. So what I have done is I have created one new branch, that's DevOps. Okay, developer 1. I'm going to make some, because this is I'm going to make some changes in developer 2 branch. So let's go and validate this, because currently we are not validating if there is any files in that folder or not. Okay, so let's go and validate this. What I will do is I will Previously I have this only the move files activity. Now what I'm doing is I am configuring the validation as well. So what you need to do is you need to go and choose the data sets where exactly you want to perform this validation. So currently I want to perform the validation in data source. Okay, and in data source, because it will ask you which container, because in storage, when I created the storage, so there was two containers. One was a sink, which is my this container, and second is the staging container. So what I will do is I will provide the option sync I want to perform, and currently it is child items is ignored. So child items when will make true, so what it will do, it will verify if there are any child items for this container or not. If there are not any child file, it will not process. So let me save this. Okay, process, and okay, now let's run this process. So if you will see there, currently actually I don't have any files in my sync folder. Okay, so you can see there is no process happening after the validation. It is still in queue. Now let's go and upload some files in this folder. Okay, so after uploading the files, it should move. So you see there now the process is happening. So it went to validation, succeeded, then it went to get files and filter data, and like that the whole process will happen. So it doesn't matter actually, means like if you means like we have done only for the copy or move files, but you can add as many activity in the pipeline you want. So you can see here now my file etl is came here, and this will be gone from here. Okay, now what I want is I want to move this into main branch, because currently this is my one developer is means doing the development. Okay, there might be multiple developers who are working on the same pipeline. So what exactly we want is we want to merge these changes into main branch. So what we'll do is we'll create a pull request for that. Means all this we can do from here. Move files from dev. Okay, if you want, you can set up any reviewers for reviewing your code or pipeline, but in my case, actually, I don't have anyone, so I'll just go and create. Okay. After creating, because whoever you will select as a reviewer, so they will be able to review and approve. But for this demo, I am just going to approve my changes and complete. If you see that when I will do the complete, so it will ask you complete the associated work items after merge. It will merge the code in main branch, and then it will delete the developer too. So if you want, you can uncheck this if you are using a regular. So let it, I think it's done. Now my developer 2 branch should not be available there. So this was my developer 2. Let's go and so you can see there is only main, and now what I want is I want to publish this data pipelines with the validation into QA and production environment. Okay, so what exactly we'll do is that can be done with the help of ARM templates. So how exactly this whole data pipelines once you develop and once you deploy with the help of Azure DevOps. So what you can do is you can just go in the manage. Okay, because it is asking, so it's like I will choose the use existing main branch. Okay, it is asking because my developer 2 branch is deleted, so it is asking which branch you want to connect to. Okay, so I want to connect to ARMS. Let me see my changes are deployed or not. Sorry, saved or not. Yeah. So, but these changes make sure once you done all your testing, everything, and if everything is okay, then you have to publish. Then only these changes will be reflected in your ARM templates. So I will make the changes publishing, and then I will go to the manage, and there is a ARM templates. So let's create. Okay. So I'm going to export the ARM template now, and same ARM templates I'm going to import into QA and production. Okay, currently for the QA I have already done, so let me show you in production how exactly we'll do. So sorry, I think its time is almost over. Just a few minutes more. This is the last of. So I will go in my data pipelines for the production. So what I will do is I will just go in ARM templates, okay, and import the template from the downloaded one. Oh shit, okay, sorry. I need to extract the files. I need to just upload my ARM templates.json, and yeah. So it will, once you save this, it will ask you all the resource groups. So which resource group you want to deploy? I want to deploy in production, and the region is by default selected. If you see, this was the dev. I can just change to prod because my service is prod. Let me show you how what is my service name here. So make sure your naming is correct. This is my service. So I'll provide the same name here. Okay, and this is dev, so it should be prod. And as I mentioned earlier, for the storage access key for in the key vault, I have given the storage access key for dev, QA, and production the same naming convention. So you don't need to change this. So, and then we have same folders in dev, QA, and production. So sync and staging, and that's it. That's it. So it will help you to create a production pipeline similar. So actually this process in Azure DevOps, we can automate. So you don't need to upload or, the manually upload a template into the portal. So what we can do is we can set up the DevOps pipeline to do this process. So that's the only difference once you're doing from the GUI and either you are doing from the DevOps pipeline. Okay, so you can see here my production is ready. Okay, let me show you. So you can see in my production now I have validation, this. Now what I want to do is I want to, let me just go and quickly configure the storage account for production. So this is my storage account name. So what I will do is I will connect this. I'm using one tool that's called Storage Explorer. So you can see, you can configure your, now what I need to do is configuring here. I need a key. So access key is here. So I can copy this, key. So my production, I have 2 containers. There are no files in this. Okay. Now what I will do is I will upload one file in to check that if my pipeline is okay or not. So let's upload it. Okay, now I want to test my pipeline. So this is my dev prod pipeline. So let's run it and see if it works. So if any activity is failing, you can just keep the debug point and you can see. So that's how it's simple is like if you want to do with the ARM templates, so you can just export and can import in any of the environment to run the process. But if I'm doing, let me show you quickly how I have done with the Azure DevOps because I have very less time. So for configuring into the Azure DevOps, what you need to do is first of all, you need to set up the environment variables. Okay, so for the staging and production, I have set up my environment variable because my naming convention is like, if you see here, my naming convention is like a data fact rg prod. So I had that's why I have set up, sorry, I have set up a value as a prod, and same as this for UAT, they will be staging, they will be UAT. Okay, because I have the naming in the last is UAT. So this is a UAT. And then what you need to do is you need to go into the pipelines, sorry, release. And in release, you need to set up the, you need to create a release. And same as this, you have to set up the variables. So what are the variables you will set up? Because when we upload the template, so you have seen that we have checked the factory name because this was a change. So we'll pass the environment variable here. Same as this, we will in the Azure Key Vault path, we will pass the environment variable. So these two variables we will set up. And after that, we will set up the like task. So first of all, I have to set up one task for Azure Key Vault to get the key vault for connection string. And then what we'll do before running up the Azure deployment templates to, making to UAT and production, we will do some pre-deployment checks. So I have some arguments to, there is some pre-deployment script provided by Microsoft for Azure Data Factory. So I will later on, I will provide that on my GitHub, and you can, so this is the, and then we need to pass some parameters like ARM templates, path, and resource name. These are all the dynamic variables because the environment variables I'm passing. And that's how we need to run the, after running the pre-deployment script. The difference between the pre-deployment and post-deployment script is pre-deployment is true and delete deployment is false in that. Means like we don't want to delete the resources. So because it's a pre-deployment, and after post-deployment, we want to delete some of the resources. That's why in this arguments, the delete deployment will be true. Okay, so I think so you can see my all pipelines ran here. And now in my staging, the file should be copied here. Yeah, it came and it should be gone from here. So I think because of the time constraints, the DevOps part, maybe I will, in some other sessions, I will cover. But so in summary, what I have done is I have created a pipeline, data pipeline, by creating the resource storage. In storage, what I want to do is from one folder to copy the file to another folder and then delete the files from the source folder. So which was my source folder was like sync container, and I want to copy the files to the staging. So that's why we need a blob storage for storing these files. And this configuring this blob storage, we have set up the Azure Key Vault, and making the connection between the blob storage and data pipelines, we need linked services. So that's why we have set up our linked services here. Okay. So these are the linked services we have set up for the Key Vault storage. So you can see here. Okay. And after that, I have created the data pipelines. So data pipelines, they are already predefined templates. You can create either one of them, or you can choose, creating the new data pipeline. It's up to you. So I have created for the get files, like move files data pipeline, which is a predefined template. And then I have added my own custom activity for validating that file is available in that folder or not. Yeah. And after creating end-to-end pipelines, I want to automate with the help of Azure DevOps using ARM templates. So what I have done is I have configured the Azure DevOps and for my deployment DevOps activity, and then I can can export this template and deploy in some other environment. So this was with the help of ARM templates. But if you want to automate this whole process, you need to set up the pipelines. That's the only differences. Pio,
Yeah.
any question?
Yeah. All right. Also, great session. You you've just seen how you can automate your deployments using DevOps and ARM templates. Uh,
Yeah.
on Asip's demo, we're doing ADF, but you can also use the same method to move resources between your environments. For example, if you want to move other resources aside from ADF, you can use the same principle of using ARM templates and DevOps.
Yeah.
We don't have any questions on the chat right now.
Okay.
Let me just check on the. Yeah,
I think it's a bit
there's no
late.
question. So if you have any questions for those people on the meeting, you can drop your questions on the chat. Uh, while we're waiting for people to drop their questions, just wanna reshare again the link for the evaluation. So if you have any feedback about the session, feel free to fill up the evaluation form and provide your feedback. Thank you, Asif, for your session. It's very
Thanks, Pio. Thanks, Aro, for organizing this.
Thanks everyone again for it was very interesting sessions which we seen so far, and have a good weekend, long weekend.
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks everyone for
Yeah.
joining the
Yeah,
session.
thank you everyone for joining. Watch out for the
Thank,
announcements for
yeah.
succeeding sessions. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.